Hey guys, it's Admiral Bumblebee, and today I am reviewing the Kali Audio LP-8s, which you can see in the background here. So, today, that's what I'm doing. Let's get into it. What are you waiting for? Let's do it! We're going to have to go ahead and test these monitors first, specifically their frequency response. So I've set up a microphone in front of a couple speakers here, and the first thing I did was try the Kali Audio LP8s at varying levels to see if the frequency response changes depending on how loud they're being played. And it turns out that they respond pretty well to this type of torture. Excellent. This is how they compared to the Atom A7 plus Sub 10 that this room was specifically designed for. You can see that there's quite a bit of high-end roll-off. Or is there? They look pretty flat if you just change the slope a bit, which makes it that these are pretty flat. They just are not as bright as other monitors. There's a high shelf switch on the back, which apparently works. And then there's a low shelf switch on the back, which apparently works. I thought for a second that possibly the high and low shelf switch was just turning up the tweeter and the woofer. So I tried turning them both on and both off. If it was the case that the tweeter and woofer being turned up or down, then we would just see the whole signal increase or the whole signal decrease. That's not what we see. We can clearly see that the shelves act at the extremes, but in the middle, where the shelves don't do anything, nothing is happening. So there are actual high and low shelves here. There are what are called boundary EQs on the back, but they're presented as do this thing depending on where you position your speaker. And for the most part, they mess with things in the low, mid-range, and the low end. Just pick what works for you. This is what I had. I ended up with switches 1, 2, and 3 up, and 6 and 7. So that's what it looks like compared to the Atom A7s I use. They are noticeably duller, but is that really a bad thing? It is a fairly valuable addition to my monitoring setup because I can listen to the LP8s for significantly longer without wanting to put a fork in my ears. I made a quick little setup here with a couple of blocks on a stool so that I could put two monitors in the exact same position and test them to see how well they match. They match pretty darn good for speakers in their price range. There is a slight resonance shift around 15,000 kilohertz, which I doubt most people are going to notice. The biggest shift is around 2K, which is approximately 1 decibel, and some people might notice that. But it's not that big of a deal, and in the price range, I have not actually seen anything even close to as good as this. Next, I took a WAV file that had one single sample at full value, and I ran it through the speakers. So here's the results. I'll give you a second to copy them and put them in your text editor, and then save it as a WAV file. And now here's the other one. And here's the Python code I used to generate this chart so that you can just copy and paste it straight into your editor and generate the same chart. The green shows the optimal response, the blue is the Kali Audio LP8s, and the orange is my Atom A7s. It is fairly clear that the Atom A7s respond much quicker and recover quicker than the LP8s, but the LP8s do perform admirably. Now we get to the funnest part. I'm going to go ahead and take these things apart. There goes my warranty, I guess. So can we lift this up? Let me turn this around. I don't know if you guys can still see this. Alright, there we go. I have a cable here to undo. And here's what the inside looks like. Are we in focus? We're in focus. So we have looks like a pretty standard setup here. There is a replaceable fuse in here at least, which is good. This appears to be relatively fairly put on there. I don't know what happened there. I am not an electronics expert. So if anybody's seeing this can tell me, what we see here, that'd be cool. So let's look inside. Alright, I'm back with one of my wife's flashlights. So, we can see that there is absolutely no padding in here. That could likely be improved, generally, but there is some light material here along the edge. See, it's a fiberboard, some sort. Appears to be a MDF. I'm going to pull you around here in a second. You can see that this base reflex port here is 2 parts. It's not actually supported very well. Can you see that? That seems to be just glued together with some sort of plastic epoxy. Let me back out so you can see everything we're looking at here. So there's the base reflex port, and it's glued together there, and we have no filling here at all, which seems unusual from the studio monitors that I've taken apart. They're usually filled up with a lot of foam or some other material. So that is what we can see. I'm not going to scratch or melt that plastic down there to figure out what type it is. I assume it's some sort of ABS. And the whole front end is actually plastic. That's all there is there. I don't see any trim pots on the circuit board for adjustment of any sort. But I'm just showing you inside. That's what you can see. So I threw a bunch of charts and graphs at you showing how this responds in my room, and only in my room for that matter. These charts don't tell you anything about how they're going to sound in your space. They're going to sound different in every single space. So, are these guys actually worth the money? I think they are. They sound completely different than my Atom A7s, which are known to be on the bright side. I would say that the LP-8s are a little bit on the dull side, but they respond well, and for the price, in fact, they are less than a quarter of the price of my current setup, and I find them to be approximately equal value. So that's pretty darn good. I've seen other videos where people are like, the best studio monitors under $500. And I mean, they are.